LEDs. You know Dan and his lights. Let's see where he got these. Hey Dan, run that intro.
Hey Gearheads, thanks for tuning in. If you know me at all, you know there's two things I love. One of them is Chevelles. The other one is LED lights. They just make everything look cooler. Now, if you recall, on my ramp truck, I put a ton of LED lights on it, and I thought it looked awesome. Unfortunately, I had to sell it, and we kind of moved on, and I bought my trailer, which doesn't really have any lights. But the good news is we were reached out to by a company called Parts AM. We become partners, and we got a box of toys. Let's check it out. Oh, look at that. Look at all these lights. Come in closer, let me show you what we got. That's 30 LED lights. Let's take a closer look at one of them. So each one of these units has 6 LEDs in it, as you can see. It's very slim. It's got 2 screw mounting points, 2 wires that come out the middle, and they also provide you with sticky back foam tape and screws so you can attach them, whichever one you want. If you're like me, you're wondering, what do they look like? Well, let's hook one up and check it out. So I got to borrow the Chevelles battery to show you this, and this is the white lights. And you can see how bright it is. Now, remember, these are marker lights. They're not like driving lights or fog lights, but that's pretty darn bright for 6 LEDs. And these are the red lights. You can see they're a little bit dimmer. You can use them for brake lights or turn signals, but I would really just use them for marker lights in the back, but they're really cool. And then these are the amber lights. These are actually pretty bright too. So as you saw, we have 30 of these lights. So we got 10 red, 10 amber, and 10 white. So you may be asking yourself,
what's he gonna do with them?
Now, since this is where the fender ends or starts at the beginning of the trailer, we have from over there to over here, and I was going to do this amber. Behind the wheels, I was going to do red, and I have something up my sleeve for the white. But what I'm going to do is basically attach them right here to the sides. I'm going to drill them in and use the nut and bolt, but I have to figure out the layout of where I'm going to put them. Also, another thing is, at some point, I may want to put a rub rail up here to help strap down the cars. That way I don't have to just go to one of these stake pockets points. If I put the lights back here now, they'll shine nice and pretty, but once I put a rub rail in, you're not going to be able to see the light, but maybe it'll kind of glow like they do that glowing lights in the wheel wells and stuff like that. This doesn't go all the way to the front, so I really have to put it in here. It is an open C channel, so there's nice access in the back. And at the front corners, we already have the amber running lights, so I can just take that wire and run all these into it, and it'll just go off of the truck power. So shouldn't have any problem there. These really don't take that much power. So let me go ahead and lay a couple at the top here and see what it looks like, and then I'll show you. So like I said, I got 10 of these, so we have the 5 for the other side, and that's the fender starts. So I was thinking of doing 2 in each of these larger sections, and then 1 at the front because it's kind of shorter, and like I said, we have the light right there at the beginning. So looking at it long ways from the side of the trailer, I think that'll light it up pretty cool, and then the fender's there. So if we do that on both sides, I think we'll be okay. So I measured between the fender and the front of the trailer, and I can't do them equidistant because it ends up right where the stake pocket is. So what I did was I basically measured each of these openings, which is 3 feet, and put the lights at 1 foot each. So each section is centered. I don't have one back here, but that's not a lot of space, so I'm okay with that. So we have 2 equidistant there, and 2 equidistant here, and 1 at the front. But when you look at just the spacing on them, it looks kind of weird. So I think what I'm going to try to do is take 2. Instead of measuring from where the fender starts, I'm going to measure from here, because basically when you're looking at it at night, it's going to be between here and the front of the trailer where the 5 lights are. So if they're equidistant there and it doesn't run into an issue with the stake pocket, let's see what that looks like. But you can stop me and comment here on if you think this would be fine and nobody really cares, or no, that's not equidistant and that's going to bother me. So let me know what you think, and let me go ahead and remeasure and relay them out. Alright, this is what I ended up with. I actually changed the spacing of these last two over here and here to kind of bring them down this way a little bit more, because it is open all the way up to the fender here. So having a light all the way over there is a lot more distance here than there is at the front to the corner. But I really can't do anything else because every other spacing I ended up running into one of the stake pockets. So I have these spaced out a little bit different from where they were before. This was measurement 1, and then this was measurement 2. So I put this one in the middle, brought it down. Same thing with this one. Here's 1 and 2. Brought that kind of in the middle. These I left because 2 brought this one down further and this one up further, so it just kind of opened up the spacing. This one I have to leave at 2 because I can't bring it any further back. So I'll have the corner light, and then we'll have this one. So that's about equidistant on each of those. And then this one has a little bit more spacing, and this one has even more spacing. Actually, I might move that one down a little bit more. So that way, from the front to the back, they'll kind of get further apart, which will be good because I don't have any lights on the fender here, which I may add later. And then we need to figure out the back with the red lights, but let's not worry about that until this is settled. I think this is good, so I'm going to measure it out, duplicate it on the other side, and then at least we'll know where it's going and we can lock them in later. Alright, so after measuring a bunch of times and trying to figure out equal spacing from the fender to the front of the trailer, I ended up with trying to center them evenly in between each of the spacings between these two and these two stake pockets, and then centered on that one. Then I tried to do equidistant from the beginning there all the way to that stake pocket, because when I did it to the fender, or that point in the fender, they interfered with the stake pockets. So what I ended up doing now, and they're all clear, was I went 16 inches, 17 inches, 18 inches, 19 inches, 20 inches, and then it's actually from there to there is 21. So it's actually, they get obviously longer or further apart at the back and closer together at the front. So it's a good spacing here. And in the future, I may do lights at the fender, maybe at the front and back of the fender to kind of tie it in. But for right now, I think this layout looks pretty good. And with the 1 inch incremental going towards the back, it kind of closer together at the front, further apart at the back, might make the trailer look like it's going faster, and the Chevelle project on it too. So, gonna lock this in and move on. So now that I have the lights spaced out correctly, you might be wondering, Dan, how are you gonna drill the holes? Check this out. So we have basically the center line left to right of where we want to put the lights, and I made this fancy cardboard template, and it fits directly at the top. So all I have to do is line these up, and this will center where the holes need to be drilled. I even have it what size I need for those wires, so I'm going to center punch that, and then the light, see if I can do this with one hand, will have the 3 holes it needs, and it will be exactly where we want it. Alright, I just have the center holes drilled so the wires will fit in, so they might not be level, but they got in, and I got them all spaced out. So this one, if you're going to be coming up from the rear, you might not see it at first, but again, this isn't rocket science, it's just some cool LED lights to look good going down the road. So I'm going to drill the other holes to put them in, and then we'll get to the back. I'll wire everything up when I'm done. The backs were a little bit easier since they're basically each just their own small little section. All I had to do was center each one. That one I just drilled the holes, so I'll be putting the light in. But this will be 3 red lights on the back there. And I think I mentioned before that you can use the hardware they provide, or you can use this double stick. This is not a double stick, it's actually a gasket that they do recommend using on the back of this. This helps waterproof, and you can also use a little extra silicone around these holes if you want to keep the water out of your metal so it doesn't rust. Mine's an open back, so I'm not really going to worry about it. Here's the final look at the last 3 lights on the sides. And yes, I did choose to angle the last one with the dovetail because that just looks better in my opinion. So 3 on this side, 3 on the other side, and then of course we have all those up front. Alright, back here on the trailer, I'm just going to basically kind of work on one side at a time. I have these challenges with these little supports here. For the ramp channel, you can see this is the channel the ramps go in, and it has these little supports, so like little triangular supports. You can see that there. So that kind of hinders where I can put lights over here. So what I've done is laid out a piece of tape with all of those marked. So that kind of tells me where I can't put lights. So you can see that. That's kind of both sides of it and where it is. So we're going to kind of look at these in sections. So I think each side section we're going to do 2 red lights. And I think I'm going to do that one as a marker light, so it's kind of close to the corner of the trailer, even though we have the fender light right there. That'll kind of illuminate here, and don't forget over here we have that one. So we'll have the 3 red lights there, and then kind of continuing around we'll have one here. And then I think the inside ones I'm going to hook up to the brake lights, so that way instead of just having the 2 trailer lights braking on either side, we'll also have 2 inboard lights that will go with the brake light. So that brings us to this middle section where between this one and that one I can basically fit 4 of these lights, because we still have 10 of these. So I think what I'm going to do with these is I'm actually going to make the outer 2 go with the reverse lights of the truck, because there is a port for that. So I can do 2 of these as reverse lights, and then these other 2 are going to actually be work lights. So I'm going to put these on a switch with 2 lights on the side on the fenders. So I do want to mount it on the inside, so it'll basically light up the whole middle of the trailer. I am a little concerned having it on the side here. I've already kind of scraped this a little bit with the cars. You know, if they get a little off, the wheel's going to rub up against the side here, but I'm just going to have to watch that and protect it. And then I also want to get some lights for the top of the trailer. I'm working on the manufacturer to have them send me some of those. But basically we'll have the 2 in the back. There'll be 1 on each side here. That will basically light up the whole middle of the trailer. And that leaves us with 2 more lights that we can put on the front of the trailer here. So we're hooking up or ratcheting down or whatever, we'll have the 2 lights here. And because this is angle iron, I can mount them on the front just like this. So there'll be like 1 here and 1 there. They'll be in here. The wires are going to run into the toolbox right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a switch, maybe underneath here or something. I'll put a weather switch so it's all protected, but that way it'll basically run off of the battery. If for any reason I need to power these lights up when the truck is not connected, I can just run it off the battery, and then I can just hit the switch and it'll go on. Or again, when it's connected to the truck, it'll be running through the battery, so it'll be charging. But we'll put a switch here. So that's the plan for the lights. So let's see how all of this goes. So for these front guys, I decided to split it in half. I went measured from the outside of this to the outside of this. I'm not going to put lights in these channels, so I figured I wanted it to be in this space. So this is pretty much the spacing that I ended up with. No, this spacing, where these lines are. I think it looks pretty good, so we'll do 2 on this side and 2 on the other side. So there's the final look at the lights. So there's 2 on this side. I'm going to go do the other 2 on the other side, and then we'll get to wiring. So here at the tongue of the trailer, this is angle iron and it is open back here. So I'm probably going to put some split loom tubing on the back to cover all these wires, and then I think I'm going to have a switch right in here, and then it'll go into the battery box. That switch is going to take care of these 2 lights, those 2 lights, and we're going to get onto the fenders next. So here are the 4 lights at the front of the trailer. I had to space them out obviously because of the winch, but I think they're going to leave, they're going to put out a lot of light. And remember, they're going to be on a separate switch that goes right to the battery. So even if the trailer is not hooked up to something, I can put them on and use them to see what's going on. So moving on to the fender. So I have the last 2 white lights. I'll show you where they're going to go in a minute. And I bought this wire off of the internet. It's just a black and red, so it's got the right colors. It's really long. Here's the hardware for those. Now this is what I found that I'm going to use. Now I don't normally like these types of connectors where you just put the wires in and you crimp it. But in this instance, instead of cutting every single one of these wires and soldering them together, heat shrinking them like I do, I thought this would be better, so it keeps the main line connected at all times, and then each of the lights will be on a separate T off basically. So if anything happens with one of the lights, all the other lights will still be okay. Plus it's a lot less work. It just kind of crimps in along the line. It doesn't disrupt that, just taps off it, and then you have the other T that the wire will come off for the light. So let's take a look at it. So they only had a positive coming off of the light, and it was grounded to the trailer, so I just put a ring terminal on there, and this is the way they attached the wire to the power. It was with one of those quick clamp connectors, which I hate, and I did use a butt connector to tap into it, which I dislike. All of these operations I like to solder and heat shrink, but I'm going to tape all that up and it should protect it. So now we got our leads going back, and I'm going to fix this up too, but we got the T-fitting on here going to the first light, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of tape all this together and attach it, and then the way I'm going to run the wire is going to be underneath here in this channel, and it should hopefully be strung close enough that it will be tight to the trailer all the way down. And you can see I have a lot of work ahead of me, but let me show you what it looks like. So I know it's daylight and it's hard to even see that this light is on because it's incandescent, but when you look back, that LED, holy cow, you can see how bright that thing is even in the daytime. Look at that. So once we get all of these lit, it's going to look awesome, but it's kind of raining, so I'm shutting the camera off. Alright, got the first couple lights wired up, and even though it's daytime, you can see how bright these things are going to be. It's going to look great at night. Alright guys, so I'm out here at my favorite church parking lot where I usually shoot the videos of the cars and walk-arounds. This trailer looks awesome. I'm going to wait for it to get a little bit darker, and then I'm going to show you everything on the trailer. So I have all these amber lights on the front. There's 5 on each side, and then at the back and the dovetail, there's 3 red lights that behind the wheels. There's also 2 red lights at the back of the trailer. Now those are all marker lights, so they're on whenever the parking lights are on the truck. Then we have hazard lights and turn signals. One of the reds inbound on each corner is for turn signals and hazard lights. They will flash with the turn signals. They do work with the brake as well, so they'll work with brake and turn signals. So that just gives a little bit better visibility when I do have a car on the trailer if somebody can't see the back of the truck. Of course, I still have the original lights that came with it, but these are just cooler. I mean, that's pretty much it. And the coolest thing that I did, well, the coolest thing I like, is work lights. The other day, when Scott and I were loading up the 69 convertible, it was at night. I was trying to get the trailer hitched up to the truck. I couldn't see anything, so we had to have flashlights out there. So what I've done is I put a switch that goes to the trailer battery, so I can use these lights whether the trailer's hooked up or not, and we can go ahead and hit that switch. We have 4 lights at the front of the trailer facing backwards, so it lights up the trailer itself. If we're loading a car on, we need to see how to hook it up or whatever. It can mess with the winch. There's 2 forward-facing lights on the front of the trailer, which is going to be really handy in loading the trailer to the truck. You're backing up the truck. It doesn't even have to be attached yet. You can turn those lights on. You can see where you're going. With the backup camera, that's going to make it even easier to see. Of course, I got backup lights on the truck, but again, I had the lights, so I wanted to utilize them. And then what I did, because I had extra lights left over, is I put the last 4 white lights on the back of the trailer. Now, 2 of them are hooked up to those that switch with all the work lights. So when I turn the work lights on, there's 2 forward-facing at the front, 4 rearward-facing at the front, and 2 rearward-facing at the rear. I don't believe I said that without screwing it up. So that'll light up behind the trailer. Again, if we're loading up a car or I'm backing up, it'll make it a little easier to see. I do have a plan to hook up wires to the back of the trailer and put that other backup camera back there so I can do a split view, or I can switch the view from the back of the truck to the back of the trailer. Again, when there's a car on there, it'll really help me out getting that back there and being able to see. So the last thing we have is the last 2 white lights on the back are going to be for reversing. So again, when I'm reversing with the trailer, it's just going to be 2 extra lights back there. If I don't have the switch on and I'm just backing up somewhere, I don't have to get out of the truck and turn the other lights on. It'll give me a little extra visibility in the back. So overall, I'm really, really happy with the way all these lights turned out. So as you can see from the walk around, I think it looks really cool. Somebody had commented on one of the videos as too many lights for their taste, but for my taste, you can never have too many lights. I mean, if you guys saw what my ramp truck looked like, you know why this thing looks the way it does. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode on LED lights. I want to thank Parts AM for supplying me with these lights. They're really great lights to have. If you're looking for any kind of clearance lights, marker lights, they have a ton of lights. I'll put their link in the description down below. Also in the description down below are some other cool channels you should check out. And of course, you can always like this video, share it, subscribe, follow me on other social media. I really appreciate your time. And until next time, stay positive and keep on wrenching.